I'm attorney Nick Alcock. This video is about domestic violence in Arizona. Domestic violence is an offense which carries with it a lot of stigma, a lot of stress for people who are accused of a domestic violence offense, and then also you lose your right to possess firearms during the length of your probation or the length of your counseling, whatever is ordered if you are found guilty of domestic violence. So I'm going to give you some tips and some things to consider if you are charged with domestic violence, and I hope to alleviate some of the stress that you might be feeling, because getting a ticket that says domestic violence on it, it's very bewildering, it's very scary. The notion of going to court and you are charged with this is very scary, and plus most people who are charged with a domestic violence offense, they're going through a lot of trouble at home. They're going through a lot of turmoil and in their family as well. So the first thing that I would advise you to do is to take a deep breath and lower the temperature. Do what you can to find stability and don't act from panic, don't act from terror. So if you're in that situation, some lawyers, and I don't want to say anything about other people that practice law, but on occasion I hear that a lawyer will say, look, you need to sign up right now, and they put some pressure on people who were just arrested. Typically, while that might be the case in maybe some felony domestic violence situations, the vast majority of misdemeanor domestic violence cases, there is not an immediate burning rush at the very beginning of the case to get representation. And usually from the arrest and the citation to the first court appearance, you're talking about a month. So see if you can get some distance between the event and going to the lawyer's office. And for sure, the second piece of advice is you can look at what your options are. You can look at various lawyers. You can do some research, but be careful with what you see online. I say that's kind of ironic that here you are probably watching this online, but be careful, because some of that information is designed to inform but also create that sense of urgency. So the notion that, if you are convicted of a domestic violence offense, it's class 1 misdemeanor, you're facing a maximum penalty of up to 6 months in jail. That's a very scary thing. It's a very convincing thing if you want to hire an attorney. You're like, wow, it creates a very significant motivation to hire an attorney. And so the vast majority of people who are charged with a domestic violence offense, they're not looking honestly at 6 months in jail. And so while you are perusing everything online, just take everything with a grain of salt. If it feels like it's a sales pitch, if it feels like it's something to create that urgency, step back. Object number one, the object of the exercise is to find a little bit of calm, find a little bit of peace. Okay, now, when you go to court and when you are facing a domestic violence offense, a really significant thing that you need to know is that the prosecutor does not have to tell you the entire truth. They don't have to tell you everything that they know. And the entire court system can be very intimidating, and you can you're in a situation, you walk into court, and then you find yourself pleading guilty to something that you don't really feel comfortable pleading guilty to. And you don't know the whole story, and you don't know what evidence they have, and you don't know everything there is to know about your case. So when you go to court, they may present some type of plea offer to you early, and again, you have time. So just like with the defense attorney, with the prosecutor, same thing. You say, look, I want to consider the evidence, I want to look at the case, I want to understand the case before I make a decision. Know that domestic violence offenses, they relate, typically it's in a disorderly conduct type of situation. Usually it's some type of assault situation where the victim is a spouse or significant other. That's the normal case, but domestic violence can also apply to children that you're cohabitating with, blood relatives, and so there are a number of other types of victims that fit within the umbrella of domestic violence. And domestic violence, it doesn't even require violence. It doesn't mean that you hit someone. Domestic violence could be disorderly conduct, yelling and screaming, disturbing the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. The victim is your wife. No one is hurt, but it's domestic violence because the victim is somebody that you live with, somebody that you're married to. And that's where these cases can get really, really complicated, and a lot of unfortunate things happen because people who are convicted of domestic violence, they go to get a job and they see that an employer sees domestic violence, and from there they say, well, I can't hire you because you're convicted of domestic violence, not understanding that it wasn't a crime of violence. It was a designation that attached to yelling and screaming, or breaking a phone, or maybe breaking even your own phone. Things like that can lead to a lot of heartache later on. So the final piece of advice I'll give you in these cases is that while a prosecutor doesn't have to tell you everything, you can ask for everything and the prosecutor has to tell you the truth. So for example, if you're not absolutely certain whether or not the victim is still around, whether or not the victim, and I say victim in the legal sense, I'm not saying that every case the victim is actually a victim, but legally they're called victims. And so you get to ask the prosecutor, look, have you spoken to the victim? Is the victim ready and willing to testify? And through an attorney, the attorney can say, does the victim want to submit to an interview? Now the victim could say, look, I don't want to, and that's within their rights, certainly, but it can be asked, and the prosecutor can't lie. And the prosecutor has to turn over all of the evidence. And not only that, they have to have all of the evidence in a good and organized way. They can't just say, well, these are the pictures and that's it. They have to have the police officer validate the foundation of all of the evidence. And if they're missing a police officer, that could be fatal to their case as well. If we're talking about your life, and if we're talking about something that could potentially ruin your career or prevent you from really growing in your career or in your life, of course it makes sense to, and you deserve to, look at all the evidence, make decisions that are right for you, and make decisions from a point of information and not terror. So again, the name of the game is you got a little bit of time, take advantage of that time. You have the right to information, take advantage of that right. You have the right to look for every single nut and bolt that could be wrong in the case, anything that basically could result in the case being thrown out because they don't have a witness, they don't have the requisite evidence that they need. And we're here to help you. We handle domestic violence cases in all courts statewide in Arizona, and I am certainly willing to help you. And I know that what you're going through is very, very tough, and I wish very much that the circumstances would be different for you. But let's work from the positive and let's see if there are positive solutions. That's what I always say. And if you want to give me a call, 602-989-5000 is our number. You can text me at 602-999-1209, 602-999-1209, and that's my personal number. I'd be happy to talk with you. I enjoy very much meeting with clients and looking for positive solutions for them. So any criminal case in Arizona, my name is Nick Alcock. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it.